and welcome to Dustin's Kaleidoscope. I am Dustin, and I am here with Dan Pieraccini from the South Orange Elks Club.
That's right.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure I got your name right. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And the reason I have you on is because you are the new Exalted Ruler of the South Orange Elks Club.
As ridiculous as that sounds, it is true.
So first of all, before we start talking about that, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be a part of the Elks Club?
Sure, absolutely. I've been doing community service for a long time, both with like my youth group growing up, and then of course I live in Jersey City, so I've been involved in a lot of like food insecure projects like Food Not Bombs and a couple of food pantries. And then when COVID happened, I was living here with my partner in South Orange, and I decided to really throw myself into it because I did not want to stay home all day.
Okay.
So I needed to be out and doing things. So I threw myself into whoever would take me, and I offered myself to the EMS squad,
Okay.
the OLS pantry, which is Our Lady of Sorrows food
Yep.
pantry, and I had already been a member of the Elks Lodge because my partner had been for some time, and she was going, and she's like, "This is a cool little spot where
Really?
people hang out, have beverages, and socialize. Check it out." And so I was like, okay, what do they need me to do? And I knew that they had a pretty large community service initiative, but I didn't know how much until I said, I have a lot of free time. I want to be out there doing things, so put me to use. And that's where it all kind of began.
Okay, and so are you solely like volunteering? Are you doing like only the Elks Club at this point? Or are you still like at the different other organizations?
I
like
still
EMS
oversee the volunteer efforts over at the food pantry across the street at OLS, but being Exalted Ruler takes up a lot of your time if you want
Really?
to do it well. Absolutely.
Okay, so
So-
how did that come to be?
The title is effectively the president of the lodge.
Okay.
So there are over 2,000 lodges in America, including territories like Panama and Alaska, Hawaii, Guam.
Wow.
And so each lodge has their president, which is elected. And of course I had to run against the incumbent, and I was elected as the Exalted Ruler, and you kind of oversee all of the efforts of the lodge. Now, the lodge can have a lot of different initiatives. First and foremost, it is a club, so members can socialize and use it for different things. You can rent it for a party, we can have concerts, we can have family nights and dance parties, and you name it. We do a lot of those things, cookouts.
And is it open like all the time, or is it only open when there is an event?
So usually we're open Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday nights, but then once in a while we'll have an event.
Okay.
We do receive permits from the town to open up to the public 12 times a year. So we try to strategically make those big nights where we can have DJs and bands play and
that's nice.
food and all this kinds of stuff so that we can show people what we're about. But we are non-for-profit, so all of the money that we make from these goes towards our charities, of which there are many, and the efforts are myriad because primarily the Elks in America tend to focus on two causes that are close to their hearts, which is the needs of special children and also the veterans.
And this is like universal
That's
among all of
correct.
them. Okay.
Yeah, it's almost like owning a Dunkin' Donuts, and your Dunkin' Donuts has to match corporate Dunkin' Donuts
Got
headquarters,
it.
right? So our Elks Lodge also has a committee that focuses on the veterans' needs of our local community and also the special children's needs.
Okay.
But that vicks up to a larger organization which has a district, and then beyond that, the New Jersey State Association of Elks. And that's where the magic happens because, for example, for that special children's committee, everybody contributes towards a camp, a special needs kids summer camp up in North Jersey that kids can go to completely for free for a week.
Wow.
And these are kids who are anywhere from slightly in need to incredibly in need. And they'll have 1 to 2 counselors assigned to them. They get to go for the week. The parents get a break. And this place is called Elk Camp More. And this is something that many of our efforts go to sponsor, so that we can send kids from our communities to that camp.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
About how many kids do you send a year?
Ooh, probably about 10 from our local area. I think that number has shrunk because COVID, and of course a lot of these kids are immunocompromised, so we had to send a lot fewer, but I believe that this summer and going forward we're going to be back up to our normal numbers.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so what are some of the fundraising? You mentioned that a lot of your fundraising, or a lot of the I guess the funds go toward this camp and to other initiatives. How do you raise money?
Sure. Well, we do a lot of fun things at our lodge. For example, as I mentioned, dance parties. We have one that's just strictly for the ladies' dance party, and that brings a ton of money. We did one for Pride. It was this dance party. We have a lot of, incidentally, in the last couple of years, and I think the migratory patterns of America have sort of led to this. There's been a lot of movement from the hipster towns in Brooklyn, to South Orange.
Yes.
So we've been seeing a huge influx of 40-something-year-old young parents who like to DJ, they like to have dance parties, they like to have indie music. So what we're seeing is sort of this cultural shift in the Elks. There used to be a lot of what I call dad rock being played when I was first joined as a member, but the concerts have now shifted a bit, and so we do have concerts, we have a lot of dance parties. There's also board game nights that we use to raise money. We do cookouts, which is fun. So we'll like grill or have like one of the initiatives that was begun during COVID was like a grub to go, where people would slow cook meat and also vegetarian options, and then people would come pick them up. And now they can sit and eat and listen to bands and stuff like that.
That was a nice alternative over COVID,
Totally.
and it's even nice now.
Totally. My partner Alicia actually came up with that. She goes by the title the First Lady of the Lodge. It's a thing.
I love it. I love it. That's great. That's great.
So we just had one 2 weeks ago that we called, get this, Elktoberfest Lodgepalooza. And we brought in almost $6,000 from food,
from
the
one
bands, day and night, because we had a dance party in the evening, and then we had bands during the day. One of our members, James Joyce, yes, that is really his name, built enormous amount of games for kids, and then we had a smash tent, which is something that one of our trustees had come up with years ago, named Anne-Marie. She developed this idea of just having a tent where people can pay $1 to smash a bottle. Incredibly successful activity. You don't know how much money we make from that. People have a lot of we'll call it pent up anger that they want to use in the smash tent. So yeah, you just buy a bottle or a fancy plate and you just get to smash it. And,
that is amazing. And that's just such a wonderful thing to do, like to create more of a community and thinking of that. How does one become a member? Like, are you selected or like?
So after you've secretly entered the cabal and the people have revealed their hoods. No, actually it's quite the opposite. In fact, I will start by saying that the New Jersey Elks Association has a pretty big goal this year of reaching 50,000 members. So they are not shy about telling people about the Elks.
Okay.
Because they want to surpass Florida. So watch out, Florida, in the number of members we have.
Right.
So the Elks membership works like this. We invite you to come and partake in one of the activities, preferably, as I've been asking, to come and partake in one of our community service activities so that you can see what we do. For example, if you've driven by the South Orange Elks Lodge, you'll notice that we have the South Orange Elks Rent Party Garden. It's a community garden.
Yes.
It's been going for years. We receive grant funds from the National Lodge Association as well as donations that we raise or collect from the community. And together with Rent Party, which is another association local to South Orange and Maplewood, volunteers come and basically work throughout the harvest season to basically produce. This year, I think it's almost 6,000 pounds of vegetables that are given to 3 different pantries in the area.
Oh, wow.
So,
and it's a beautiful garden, by the way. I drive by it all the time during the summer. So we invite interested people to come to those kinds of things because there's no membership needed to come and volunteer for that sort of a thing. Oh, that's nice.
Yep. And we do projects where we'll work across the street at the pantry. We invite people to come and join us with that. Anything that we have that's open to the public, we always tell people bring your friends, and that way they understand what the message is, and they can sort of meet the people and see that we are a diverse group of people. We are welcoming. We do all kinds of things. Then it's a very simple process. You fill out an application. You make sure you have 2 sponsors. That's why you should come to an event first and meet someone. That way you're not just walking in as a stranger.
Right.
You are interviewed by a committee that we have called the Investigative Committee. And then the membership gets to vote on whether you are an appropriate member after the committee has reported your interests, what you want to do, why you want to join the Elks.
Okay.
And then there's an initiation ritual, which is sounds scarier than it is, but it actually is one of the most beautiful parts of the Elk doctrine, where you get to hear some of the philosophy of the Elks, which is the 4 cardinal principles of the Elks and the message of why the Elks exists.
Okay. That's such a great, that's a wonderful process. Yeah. And I'm sure you get some really great people because of that process. It's pretty in-depth, it sounds like. Yeah,
and then also people who just want to be a subscriber and be a member and come by once in a while and enjoy the club. which obviously we have a very nice club. It's got a shuffleboard table and a pool table, and it's a lovely space to rent out for parties as well. But I have been to over 40 Elks Lodges across America, and some of these places are just bonkers. I mean, there's lodges that have like squash courts and several event halls and pools and workout rooms. I've seen some that just the membership gives you all kinds of access to like these $1,000 like smokers, that they'll do like old, like a 24-hour smoking meat. I've heard of one that was called the Lodge Mahal because it burned down a couple of times. So they had so much insurance money, they built this enormous campus on a lake. They had a tannery for veterans to go and basically take rabbit fur and make gloves so they could sell. So some of these places are just incredible, and if you're a member to one Elks Lodge, you can visit any Elks Lodge.
Really? Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I said, I pass by it all the time, and I've always wondered, what drew me in was the garden.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, what is this that you're doing?
That's
Can
right.
you explain the partnership that you have with the
Rent Party?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Rent Party is another local group that works with Backpack Pals, which is an initiative to get food insecure children food for the weekends. When they come home from school, and they'll pack backpacks so that it doesn't look like they're bringing home a bunch of food. It just looks like a backpack.
Yep.
They also are one of our members, Chris Dixon, is sort of the community organizer for that, and he works with our secretary, Bob Donnelly, and together with Master Gardener Karen Rutberg, who is from Rutgers University, and she actually utilizes the garden as a teaching site for anybody interested in developing their gardening skills. So you can walk in as a complete noob and then learn all kinds of things about gardening. Anyway, those are sort of the core players, but Rent Party, an association that also does concerts. You may have seen signs around town at some point.
Right, I do. Yep, I've seen those.
And they used to do them at the Elks Lodge. Then they moved over to the Woodland. And either way, the two basically run the garden. So it's on our grounds, and it's part of our initiative, but also volunteers from Rent Party help as well.
Okay, so
defer the costs and things like that.
Got it. So even though it's on your property, like if someone wants to come and volunteer, they would actually volunteer in the garden. They'd actually just contact
either. Yeah.
Okay.
Any organization will help. We do it as a joint collective initiative. So.
Okay, that's great. We're almost out of time for this segment, but I did want to ask you just one more question about the garden itself.
Absolutely.
When does it start? Like, when is your season?
Sure. So there's a pretty big job to clean up after the winter. So I would imagine, you start hearing about it in April as we start to do things, but and then there's like a little bit of a planting, but the biggest part is definitely we go to twice a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays, and that's usually through the summer because there's constant cleanup and weeding to be done on Wednesdays, and then the harvest on Saturdays. And it's still going on right now, actually, just on Saturdays through November. Yeah, there's some late season crops that are there that are
like the greens and things like that.
Exactly. And then they'll plant, this is the genius part, they'll plant certain crops that just put nutrients into the soil, and they'll let them die and then start over. So it really goes deep into, I guess, it's going to go through November for sure, which is interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really wonderful, and it's great that there are so many people who are taking advantage of it as far as volunteering, and of course that's such a wonderful thing that you and Rent Party, like the two organizations, are doing in order to help kids. I mean, that's just a genius idea to have the backpacks so that they don't look like they're carrying a lot of food home, but they're just carrying a backpack.
Yeah,
so.
the Elks will be making those backpacks in 2 weeks with them, so that's another initiative. Yeah, we'll
that's
try to
wonderful.
get involved in it.
Maybe we'll talk about that when we start back on the other side, but I'm Dustin Dumas, and we will be back in one moment.
It's an onion.
Hi, and welcome back to Dustin's Kaleidoscope. I am here with Dan Pieraccini from the South Orange Elks Lodge. Thank you so much for being here.
Really stoked to be here.
So, you know what? We finished up with the backpacks, and you explained how that process. Can you take us back and tell us a little bit about the history
Sure.
of the Elks?
There's a grand misconception about the Elks that people think they're this like cloak and dagger secret society like the Masons or
Right.
the Odd Fellows or something. But in truth, what we had was a bunch of European immigrants who came to New York. They were actors and
Really?
singers. Yeah, and they didn't have a place to go and hang out and fraternize on Sundays because of the blue laws in New York. So what they did was applied for a private club license to have a place that they could hang out with, and they'd play this game with these corks. Okay. They called it the Jolly Cork game, and I don't quite know how it works, but they would throw these corks, probably like the 1990s Pogs or something. Who knows? There's a reference for you. And so they ended up calling themselves the Jolly Corks. Well, as time went on, the interest in this organization spread, and then they started opening up lodges all over. And they numbered them for the charters that they would give out as it became a national organization. So number 1 was New York, number 2 was San Francisco, I believe, and 3 and 4 and so on and so forth until we get to the 2000s, because there's quite a few of them. And at some point, it went from being a group of actors to they took the animal, as many groups were doing with like the lions, the moose, right, and they became the Elks because they wanted to be a protectorate, and they wanted to protect the people who, as I mentioned before, are in need of help. So, for example, special needs children, veterans, these are the causes that they went for because they thought these were underrepresented communities that could use the support of a national organization that wanted to do good. They also became, an official non-for-profit and a national organization. The charters now span into the 2000s. Ours is 1154. So if you ever see the South Orange Elks Lodge, we come with the number 1154.
Okay, and that means that's the number you were.
That's our number. That's correct.
Got it.
And we've been there since over 100 years.
Really?
Not necessarily in that one spot. It actually moved from the Masonic Lodge.
Okay.
And we've also adopted Irvington's charter because Irvington had a lodge as well, but they closed. So it's technically the South Orange Elks and the Irvington Elks, but there aren't many members left of the Irvington.
Okay.
So for a long time, the Elks pretty much adopted a lot of the ways of the Masons. So if you were to enter a Masonic lodge, you'd see a lot of the similar symbology as the Elks, except for of course, the animal, the elk. The 4 virtues that we practice are similar, and the officers, the fact that there's a president and several other things. Ours are called knights, so we have like a loyal knight, a lecturing knight, and a leading knight, and then we have a chaplain and some trustees and a tiler, which is like the outer guard, and an inner guard. So it's to make sure that the right people are coming to the meeting. This must be a very old time.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right. But for a long time, speaking of the right people, the organization really only allowed white men, and much to their shame.
And that was by design?
That's correct.
Okay.
And unfortunately, that didn't make a lot of people happy. So there was a schism in the organization as black men began the International Benevolent Protectorate of the Elks. So what happens is a lot of times you'll go through town and see an IBPOE, and it looks just like an Elks Lodge, but it's specifically made from black men, for black men. Now, that was a long time ago.
Okay.
Now, what we're seeing in the organization, for example, there's one in Vauxhall that's an IBPOE, and their Exalted Ruler is my friend, Al Cook. And what we have done is trade each other's events and make sure that we can frequent one another's lodges and really sort of cross-pollinate, because it's something that we think is important to create that friendship. So oftentimes Al will come to our lodge, or we'll go, he did a crab cookout a couple months ago, and we brought a bunch of members from ours, and we had crabs with them. And it's fantastic, that sort of relationship. But there's still people today who say, are women allowed to be in the Elks? Are people of color allowed to be in the Elks? The answer, of course, unequivocally is yes. In fact, they're welcomed. Our lodge has had a diversity and inclusion mission for the last 3 years that can be found on our webpage in the About Us section, where we are absolutely inviting of all people. And we've tried to do our best to spread out the charities that we help, and to make sure that there are people in our leadership that represent the community. And these initiatives we can see even from our all members photo. Also featured, there's like a drone shot when you go onto our webpage, solx.com, and you can see a cross section of our membership, and you'll see all kinds of people, old, young, there's kids, there's a dog. That's not a member though, of course. And it's something that we're really, really big on, making sure that we fly the LGBTQ plus flag. We have a Black Lives Matter sign, and we really try to stay in tune with what the community. Now, of course, This is something that has come over the last 10 years that has really been something that has mattered to us to make sure that we are representative.
So was this something that was from the top down, meaning, or was it something local, like South Orange?
It's local,
okay.
absolutely. And I think
Okay.
that the national organization is trending that way. But
Okay.
of course, every lodge is going to be indicative of their community.
And that's okay? Like the overarching group is okay with?
Yes, the national organization is non-sectarian and non-political. So,
Oh,
you
okay.
know, there are lodges that believe that these things could become political, but ours does not. We absolutely think that this is something that is just sort of an indication of where our community is going, especially one that, like South Orange or Maplewood, where you have such diversity that
Right.
it would not really represent us if we were only a bunch of older age white men, which is sort of the stereotype for the Elks.
Okay,
You
and so this is an initiative that has come about in the last 10 years. Who in the organization, or was it a group of people who said, "Hey, we need to look at our
Well,
organization and make changes"?
It was starting already as you know, a younger age bracket was taking an interest
Okay.
from 2 or 3 Exalted Rulers ago for me
Okay.
that was starting to bring in younger people, and then of course, you know, as the national discussion moved into the summer of 2020, we couldn't not have that discussion. So our leadership got together and formed a D&I committee, came up with our mission statement, and really started to enact a lot of the things that have now picked up and that I'm hopefully trying to run with, which is like, you know, celebrating Pride Month. We had a table at the South Orange Maplewood Pride Day, which
Oh, okay.
really spun a couple of heads. They're like, what are the Elks doing at Pride Day? It's like, well, we're actually playing pin the tail on the elk. Funny, but really it was just there to show that we're trying to be modern. And then later that weekend we had our first Pride event at our Elks Lodge, and I want to tell you, one of the best parts of it was being at the door, collecting donations for the RAIN Foundation, which is a local organization that helps LGBTQ youth who have run away from home to get them
Okay.
in a place. Collecting that donation and saying, "Hi, welcome to the Elks Lodge. I'm Dan. I'm the Exalted Ruler." That means president. And having couples come in and say, "Wait, I'm where? This is the what? You're the who?" And then one woman turned to her partner and said, "Oh my God, I'm so happy that this guy is here." And her wife or partner, whatever it was, girlfriend, looked and they're just like, "Thank you. Like, this is such a welcoming, we're happy to be here." And I said, "Well, I'm happy you're here too. This is awesome." And it was just such an important thing for people all around the community to say, like, what is this building? I've always seen it, just like you said.
Right.
And wait, we're welcome here. This is for us too. And it's
Right.
absolutely.
Oh, that's
So,
wonderful.
yeah.
That is really, I mean, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And so the events that you have they increased people who actually, I mean, of course, it sounds like the events are fantastic,
Yeah.
but has it also increased the number of people who apply for membership?
Yes, absolutely. We're about to hit the 300 mark.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was just at the ritual of an induction ceremony 2 weeks ago where we inducted 16. Before that, it was in the 20s. We've been blown up with a lot of, and it's not just young people. We've seen a lot of people, like as I mentioned, from the hipster dads from Brooklyn. They're bringing a lot of friends, but also, you know, there's a lot of people from all over that are just hearing about us. You know, trying to throw out all the news, what we're doing, and again, these events are blowout events. So like people come and like, what is this? And you know, you tell them, and then they're excited.
So what do you think it is? I mean, because the other Elks Lodges also have an opportunity to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
And maybe some have, but what is it about the South Orange Elks Lodge that has become so successful?
Gosh, I think it's the people. I mean, I can't take any credit for that. It's everybody doing a lot of amazing initiatives and bringing some good ideas to the table that gets, you know, a team of people involved to do something. Because I think every one of us has the potential to do very good things, but who has the time to think of, oh, I want to go help somebody.
Right.
But if I told you, would you come Saturday and come help at a food pantry? We're in desperate need. You'd say, how long? 8 o'clock in the morning? Oh man, don't kill me. But you'd come.
Right.
You know, because at least you'd try it once. So having these initiatives kind of laid out for people in a really easy way, and then you've made some friends, and then we say, hey, we're doing karaoke next week. Would you like to come? You might be that much more willing to. And then the next time, hey, we're going up to this, you know, special needs kids camp, and we're all going to cook burgers for them. Would you like to come? And you're like, okay. And pretty soon you get hooked because it's such a great feeling to help other people.
So it sounds like you have quite a few events, and so they're not just they're events that are both social,
Yeah.
but they're also events where you can help others. So it's a nice combination.
Absolutely.
You're not just telling people, come and help us, but you're saying, hey, come and have fun, doing karaoke.
Yeah, and remember, every dollar you spend at the Elks Lodge goes to charity anyway. So
Yeah.
even if you're just hanging out
Yeah.
and playing pool, you're
Yep.
fine.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
so.
really awesome. So as the Exalted Ruler, how long is your tenure?
I have they're year-long terms, so
Okay.
this would wrap up again in the 1st of April. So I'm about halfway through my year.
Okay.
I have not noticed any gray hairs yet, but I know they're coming. And it basically, we've had people do 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, as much as their personal schedule allows. This pretty much has filled my social calendar.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. So because I want to be a presence and help people, I've begun to delegate a lot more because I want to see other people kind of rise up and come up with great ideas,
Right.
to sort of raise funds for local organizations or come up with a project that we can help with and things like that. But I still want to be present and help them along the way.
What has been the most challenging part?
Sure. Something like an Elks Lodge can be often interpreted by the memberships to be a lot of different things. Some people think it should be run like a business. Some people think that it is a private club for people to hang out in and just socialize. Other
Right.
people see it as an activist organization.
Okay.
Yet more people see it as a place to host a private event, and it's a venue or a events hall. And I, first and foremost, am attracted to the community service aspect of it. Therein lies with people's interpretations of what the Elks is and how much of that pie graph is what I just mentioned, right?
Got it.
I would like to make sure that everything comes back to the community service, but there are other people who have joined for different reasons, and it is all those things.
Right.
I wouldn't say that it is not any one of those, but the emphasis that I would place on those may not have been enough for people in some ways, or they want to see more in one direction or another, and that's probably where there can be friction, because a lot of people want to see it develop in the way that,
Different ways. Okay, so if people are interested in finding out more
Mhm.
about the South Orange Elks Lodge, how can they do that?
Sure. So we have a pretty simple, very basic, clean website that I think
Okay.
gives you everything you need. It's soelks.com.
Okay.
SO, because South Orange, elks.com. That's our webpage that has a little bit of information, our mission statement, information on renting the lodge if you want to have a party there, because both members and non-members are allowed to rent it for whatever reason, and also information on how to become a member. There's an application there. Again, we invite people to come and experience what we do first and
Okay.
foremost, because even if we get a random application, you need to know 2 elks.
Right.
And they're being your sponsors, so you would have to be connected. But if you know an elk, or if you see that something is happening at the Elks Lodge, you're always welcome to come in, and especially if you come with a friend, because we do have a members and guests events where a member can bring a guest, sign them in the book, and they can experience it. And then after that, it's just, we're off to the races.
Wonderful. Dan, thank you so much for being on the show
Oh, thank you.
and telling us all about the South Orange Elks Lodge.
Yeah.
It's not so much of a mystery to me now
I hope
when
not.
I drive by. So thank you so much for being here. I'm Dustin. This is Dustin's Kaleidoscope, and we will see you next time.